What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video from the 10-7 MMA channel. And today's video is about UFC 317 International Fight Week, June 28th, 2025. It's not a guarantee that International Fight Week has to be the biggest, baddest event of the year, but traditionally, it is the biggest or one of the biggest. Obviously, last year was an exception where we had UFC 300. That was a massive event. We had other massive events as well. But we know that the UFC's objective generally is to bring the house down during International Fight Week. It's a big event. It's in Vegas, the fight capital, and there's a lot of events where fans can come early and meet with the fighters. So generally, the plans are pretty spectacular. Now, if we back up to that press conference several weeks ago, or maybe it was almost a month ago now, it seemed that originally the UFC had planned, in my opinion, the biggest fight that they could make, period. That's Khamzat Chimaev versus DDP. That is the one to make. That would have been perfect. Unfortunately, it appears, and this is me speculating, of course, but it appears as though they tried to make that fight and DDP's camp declined the fight. Why? We don't know officially. Of course, unofficially, I guess Kevin Ioli reported that there may have been an injury from DDP's camp regarding DDP. They, of course, have since denied it. DDP came out and said that was cap. His coach then said, nope, no injury whatsoever. I made a video saying that I don't particularly believe either of them because DDP's coach later on in that same interview admitted that they originally were talking about June. So why didn't it happen in June? They just magically decided to push it back. I highly doubt it, with the amount of financial stakes on the line for this massive event, especially in the midst of a year where they're renegotiating or negotiating a brand new licensing deal, potentially with Netflix and these other massive players. This is a massively important year for the UFC. They are going to pull out all the stops to get the right fights made. And I heard MMA Guru in a video earlier today critiquing the UFC for not getting the big fights done. I think they are doing their absolute best. I'm sure they're trying. These fights are not materializing, I think, for reasons out of their control. But the fights will get done. DDP versus Khamzat is happening. Even DDP's coach has confirmed that. I think they just need to get ready for whatever it is, whether it's an injury or they need more time. It's going to happen. Anyways, this was the fight to make. This would have been spectacular, absolutely phenomenal, but it's not happening. So now we are in this very precarious situation, 8 weeks away from UFC 317 with no main event being announced, which is insane because we need to get people amped up. We need to start building the fight. People need to start preparing, buying tickets. You know, this is going to probably already reduce the amount of money that the UFC can make at the gate. Now, this is a hypothesis. I don't know this to be true, but just being logical, you imagine the later notice you give of this massive fight being made, the less time people have to prepare, make preparations, hotel reservations, flights, etc. Things will go up in price. So that's probably gonna limit the amount of money you're gonna be able to charge for the gate. It's just a bummer. So you know that it's in their interest to make the fight announcements ASAP, to get the main event and the co-main at least scheduled, slated, planned, and just putting it out there via social media to get people excited. They have not done that. Now, the main reason why is I believe the main event that they had planned, that they probably had talked about, that they'd sent out paperwork about, and they were just waiting to get everybody to sign. I think at the last minute, DDP's camp said, nope, we can't do this for whatever reason it is. I'm not trying to beat up on DDP's camp, but I'm pretty sure it seems pretty obvious that it's not happening because of their end. So it is what it is. I'm a fan of DDP, just in case you're wondering. Huge fan of Khamzat, but I'm a fan of DDP as well. But this just seems to be, this is my theory. Let's put it like that, based on Kevin Ioli's reporting and just how things have unfolded. Regardless, we find ourselves in this situation. So what is happening with UFC 317? I do not believe the UFC is just going to let it go to the wayside and let it be a lackluster event. No way. Not this year, not with the stakes as high as they are. They're going to pull something off insane, I think. So let's talk about the three possibilities, because I think there really only are three possibilities as to what's going to go down. Option number one, this is the fight that a lot of people are predicting. I actually don't think this is what's going to happen, but part of the reason why there may be a delay, I suppose, is because they are indeed waiting to see what happens in the welterweight division. Now, the reason why I actually don't think that's what's happening is because that means we're going to have to wait for still one more week until UFC 315 or whatever. I think I'm getting that number right. Sorry, a little tired. But I think until we have Bilal Muhammad go against JDM, and then if JDM wins, I guess Islam is the theory is that he's going to move up and vacate and challenge for the welterweight strap against JDM. Maybe, maybe not. I just don't know. I don't feel like they're going to try and leave it up to that point to make this announcement. But again, I guess if I mean, Islam is such a big star, I guess it's possible that they would love to have him on there. He wants to see how it goes down. Okay, it's a possibility. But anyways, Islam versus Ilia seem to be what has been teased. Ilia Topuria goes on Joe Rogan's podcast saying that the UFC promised him a title shot in the lightweight division. I don't know if that's true or not true. A lot of people are saying that may not be true, and that's just his way of trying to put pressure on the organization. Either way, maybe if Bilal retains the title, this will be the fight that they make. I'm a little skeptical because Islam seems to have no interest in fighting Ilia. I imagine he could be persuaded with the right financial incentive and maybe the right promise of what they'll give him shortly thereafter, maybe an immediate title shot at welterweight. I don't know. But I suppose there's a possibility. This is the one that I'm least excited about, by the way, because I want to see Islam take on a challenge that is interesting to him. I don't want him just doing something because of a payday or because the UFC is asking him to do it, because I know his mind is all about achieving a particular legacy and setting and achieving these goals. And as a fan of Islam, I want to see him do that. I don't want to see him take a fight that he's not interested in or not excited about. So to me, this is the least enticing option of all three. Now we're going to get to option number 2, which I know people are not going to like. I like this option. And the option is instead we have Islam Makhachev versus Justin Gaethje. So again, this could be in that same scenario. Maybe he's waiting to see what happens in the main event. If he decides to stay at lightweight, maybe the matchup won't be Ilia Topuria. Maybe it will be Justin Gaethje. Now again, this would be great for Ali Abdelaziz, who manages both of them. I'm sure this is something he's pushing for. To me, this makes perfect sense. Justin Gaethje is a legend in the lightweight division. This would be an incredible feat for Islam if he's able to defeat him. This will be an amazing fight. And as much as I've heard people cry and complain about this matchup, oh, Justin Gaethje only beat number 11, blah, blah, blah. Justin Gaethje was right in line, and then he did the UFC a solid and took the Max Holloway BMF fight to help out UFC 300. I'm sure he didn't want to take that, but I'm sure he did, and obviously was persuaded with a large payday, which he deserves, of course, being the star that he is. He did them a solid. He lost. He came back. He did them another solid by fighting Rafael Fiziev, which he didn't need to do. Okay, there was a pullout, and he accepted an opponent that he's already beaten, a very dangerous opponent, somebody lower ranked than him. So I think people are just looking at the ranking and not giving him credit for doing something amazing and putting his ranking on the line and coming out and winning. So to me, Justin Gaethje is a perfect opponent for Islam Makhachev. Some people are saying, well, it's going to be a mismatch or something like that. Look, it's going to be a fight. Maybe Islam's favored to win, but that doesn't mean just because somebody is heavily favored to win that you take away their opportunity. And by the way, don't sleep on Justin Gaethje. Again, as I reminded people before, he did a lot of damage to Khabib's legs when they fought with those amazing calf kicks that he has. So you never know how this can go down. I would just encourage people not to be too judgmental. And at the end of the day, you all love Justin Gaethje. We love Justin Gaethje. It's going to be a great fight. And think about this. The co-main, Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria. Let's go. So we have Islam versus Justin. Boom. And then right after that, we have Charles versus Ilia. And then the winner of that can challenge for the title next, whether Islam decides to vacate and move up to welterweight at some point in the future, whatever. But what an incredible progression of fights that would be for the co-main and the main. I think that would be incredible. And that's pretty much the best non-title fight you can get. Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria. Absolutely unbelievable. There's option 2. And this is one that I think is pretty likely and one that I would really enjoy. But now here's the crazy one. And people are going to say I'm extremely crazy. I think most people have lost faith in this last option even being possible. But Dana White, in the last presser, after Ian Gary had that amazing finish, or not, finish, but decision, but still, amazing fight. You know what I'm saying? And he said John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. He's still confident it's happening this year. So this is the wild card. They're trying to make John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. And yes, we've heard John Jones say, well, he needs 6 months and all this. John Jones is probably the greatest master of mind games in the history of the UFC. A lot of folks have said that what he's doing right now to Tom Aspinall, getting him frustrated, making him wait, making him feel like he's sitting on the sideline, wasting his career at 32 years of age, in the prime of his career, is all a big mind game. It very well could be. He's pushed this entire ordeal, this whole back and forth, into possibly leveraging one of the biggest paydays in the history of the UFC. Some people are speculating 30 million, could be more, could be less, I don't know. But he's very, 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 very smart. He's even played into this entire duck narrative. He's made his Instagram and Twitter handle duck pictures, which is pretty funny. And I made a video quite some time ago saying that Jon Jones played everybody. And I think that still very well could be true, that he's actually taken all the momentum and the hatred of the fans for him purportedly ducking Tom Aspinall, which I still don't even think he did when he fought Stipe. He was just taking on a planned fight. And now if he doesn't fight Tom Aspinall, yeah, it'd be a letdown, but I think he has the right to walk off into the sunset, and that's fine. He would just have to give up the belt, walk away, and that's no problem. I wouldn't have a problem with it, given all that Jon Jones has done, all of his 14 title defenses. It's fine. I wouldn't have a problem with it. But the UFC still has not announced this. Dana White is still claiming he's confident that this will happen. Why? Why would he put his reputation on the line to keep saying this if they really think they're that far away from making the fight? I don't know. And just imagine all this time, people are thinking November, Madison Square Garden, everybody's defenses are down. And then all of a sudden he hits the world, right? Just imagine this weekend or early next week, he hits the world with the announcement. Here it is. The fight is done. It's happening. International Fight Week. Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. I told you guys this was going to happen. The deal has just been signed. We are gearing up. Just imagine, people are going to go mental. This would be the fight, right? We heard Eddie Hearn recently talking about how boxing is on fire. Even MMA Guru was saying boxing is on fire, all this stuff. Nobody will be talking about boxing for the next 2 months. It will be all MMA, all UFC. And imagine if this is the game plan, right? If this is the recovery plan after Khamzat versus DDP fell apart. Now they're like, this is all we got. We got to scramble. We got to make this work. Coming to Jon Jones with the payday that he wants, maybe even bigger than what he wants. Coming to Tom Aspinall with more money too. Just putting together the pieces to make it happen, to pull off the biggest event maybe in the last 10 years, so that they can swoop into the right position, get massive buzz across the board, and all for the purpose, right, of locking down the correct licensing deal, whether it's with Netflix or Amazon, whoever. I think it's going to be Netflix. That's an not really a highly educated guess, but this is just my feeling. This is just my premonition. I mean, God, imagine this. This would be the greatest announcement, the biggest deal of all time, with all the fans. That some people are, now they had Eddie Hearn saying, well, there's not really any superstars in the UFC or the MMA. Look, I'm so obsessed with the sport myself. Maybe it's hard for me to see, what is it? They say the forest through the trees, or the trees through the forest, whatever the expression is. Yeah, that may be very well could be the case. But man, now we take the most legendary fighter in the sport in terms of title defenses and what he's been able to do from generation to generation to generation of fighters, and we get this massive fight that's finally going to be announced. The world's going to go crazy. I don't know. I think there's a chance, and I want to believe. Now, as little pieces of data, let's go back to Tom Aspinall and Jon Jones in their respective social media, just to give us a little glimmer of hope. So this is about 2 weeks ago. Tom Aspinall teases an imminent Jon Jones fight news. Just days after labeling Jon Jones a strange guy, Aspinall seems to have some great news to report, but won't after a recent promise to the UFC heads. And apparently this is when Chael Sonnen, who I put about zero credibility in general, said that he thinks it's going to be Cyril Gane versus Jon Jones. Cyril Gane versus Tom Aspinall. I mean, it could be true. I feel like Chael just, I don't know. Anyways, it doesn't matter. During a recent upload to his YouTube channel, Aspinall provided an encouraging update. I know everyone wants fight news, but I do know what's happening now. I've been sworn to secrecy for a little bit, so stay tuned. But there will be news coming, hopefully very soon. So people weren't sure if that meant an announcement about Jones, an announcement about Gane. I don't know. But something's coming. Now let's go to Jon Jones's Instagram. This was a post from just a few days ago. This is the very end of it here. It says, just a few words that come to mind. Legend after legend, era after era. This is his wall of all the UFC posters. I think it's all of these title defenses. What is that? It looks like 12. Yeah, because it would add up to, well, no. It can't be title defenses. There's too many. 12 and then 23. But anyways, these are a lot of posters of his previous fights. He mentions in this post that he hasn't framed the one with Stipe yet, right? So he's got that opening there. And he goes, What I'm most proud of, I'm evolved. I'm so much more than just a fighter. I'm a man growing stronger in my faith, a family man, a loyal brother to my team, a businessman, a leader, a man for my community, businessman, leader, whatever. And I know without a doubt my mother would be proud of the man I've become. The wall's almost filled, but trust me. So he said the wall's almost filled. So we're going to put that last one in there with the Stipe poster. He said, but trust me, the story's still being written. The best is yet to come. He's going to fight again. I really believe he's going to fight again, because why would he put this out there in terms of if it's just general life goals? Nah, it's got to be fighting goals, and it's got to be one more championship shot. Yes, he could be talking about Pereira. He could be talking about another competitor, but I don't know. I don't know. He's playing into this. Look, he's got the duck. He's got the little belt. I am praying. I don't know. I don't know what the odds are. I don't know how likely this is. Maybe it's a small percentage chance that this is actually what's happening. But I need to be an optimist here, because this will blow the socks off the combat sports world. It'll blow the socks off the world, period. This would be one of the greatest surprise announcements of all time, and me loving that excitement, that build up, these announcements, these things that catch fans off their guard and just blow people away, man. This is why I love the sport, and this is what I love about the sport. It could be, and let's just hope, this is what's happening for arguably the most important international fight week of all time amidst this massive movement in the UFC. Let's hope. So I am banking on the fact, I shouldn't say banking on the fact, I'm praying that option 3 is the winner, and we will have John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. After that, who's the co-main, who's the rest of the main card, it doesn't matter. This will blow the roof off. Now, if we have Ilia, let's say JDM wins, Islam vacates and moves up, fine. We have Ilia Topuria as the co-main versus Charles Oliveira. What an incredible co-main. What an incredible co-main for the vacant title. I mean, there's so many ways that you could slice this afterwards. You could even have Islam fight Justin Gaethje as the co-main. I don't know, maybe that's too much money for International Fight Week in terms of purses that they'd have to pay out, whatever it would be. But if we can get this done, holy smokes. Anybody talking about boxing being superior to the UFC after this, out the door, out the window, done. All people will be talking about for the next month and a half, 2 months will be UFC, mixed martial arts. Let's go, MMA fans. I hope you guys are with me. Let's pray that this is the plan and this is what they're working on, and this is going to happen because both fighters have agreed. Let's pray. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think there is possibly some chance that this is actually the case? Let me know your thoughts. If you like this video, make sure to click that like button. If you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. Thank you guys so much for joining. We'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.